This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Hi, y'all, and welcome to Horsing Around. Saddle up and get ready to have a darn tootin', galloping good time as we trot out the show that's your ultimate horse source, of course. Find out how to use good old horse sense when it comes to breeding, feeding, training, and explaining. From practical tips on caring for your horse's health to advice on how to buy horse supplies, including bridles, halters, saddles, and more. So get ready to start horsing around with your host, horse expert and award-winning rider, Audrey Pavia. Howdy, Audrey.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Horsing Around on PetLifeRadio.com. Thanks for joining us. This week, our guest is Fairland Ferguson, one of the stars of the amazing equine theater production Cavalia. Fairland is an incredible Roman rider and trick rider and is going to talk to us about her work in Cavalia. We'll be right back with Fairland after these messages.
Why the long face? I reckon Horsing Around will be back in the saddle right after we round up a few words from our sponsors.
Molly, here's your dinner. Zeus, that's not your food.
Don't let that happen to your precious cat. Elevate your cat's eating experience with the Cat Tree Tray. The Cat Tree Tray keeps your cat's food off the floor and conveniently located on the cat tree. It's the perfect way to eat. It's a beautiful wrought iron tray that easily attaches to your cat tree and keeps dogs and other critters out of your cat's dish. A must for multi-pet households. There's a 6-inch tray for large bowls and a 4-inch tray for smaller bowls. Purchase your Cat Tree Tray today. Go right now to cattreetray.com. That's cattreetray.com. CATTREETRAY.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
We know you're chomping at the bit to hear more horsing around. Well, we're back on the trail, so park yourself over yonder and set a spell. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Welcome back to Horsing Around. I'm your host, Audrey Pavia, and today we are talking to Cavalia trick rider Fairland Ferguson. Fairland, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
So happy to have you.
I'm so happy to be on the show.
Great. Well, Cavalia is such a great show. I just saw a performance the other night, and I was blown away, as I have been in the past when I've seen it. For people who haven't been lucky enough to have seen Cavalia, can you describe the show for them?
Sure, I can. Cavalia is an equestrian show that is the evolution of man and horse and the relationship. And it's from the beginning of time, when man and horse first meet, all the way up into modern-day equestrian arts. And it also showcases live music, live singing, aerialist, acrobatics, dance, and an exceptional scene set, lighting. It's really an extraordinary show, and it's not just for horse people and horse lovers. As I said, all the other aspects that I mentioned, there's really something for this show for everyone.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I've gone to a few performances, and I've brought horse people who are just completely blown away, and then I've brought non-horse people who are also blown away. So you don't have to just be a crazy horse person to enjoy it. The work you do in the show is really amazing. We first see you doing Roman riding with 4 horses. Can you describe to folks what Roman riding is?
Sure, I can. Roman riding is standing on the backs of 2 horses with 1 foot on each horse. The name comes from in the Roman days, the Roman generals would actually stand on top of the 2 horses to be able to look further out across the battlefield. And then it's also known commonly in Europe as post, because the Hungarian post riders it was more efficient to carry mail on 2 horses and stand on top of them and deliver the mail, as opposed to just 1 horse being able to carry 1 load of mail. So those are synonymous terms, Roman riding and then post riding, but it's just standing on the top of 2 horses. And then in the show, there's 4 of us that do it, and I'm the only girl. And so it's a high energy act. It's a lot of fun, and it's one of the first acts that brings the equestrian skills more into a modern aspect. You know, up until that point in the show, a lot of it had been groundwork to horses, a lot of liberty, things of that manner. And so the Roman riding act is actually one of the first acts in the show where you see people actually riding horses.
So basically, to help people visualize this who may have never seen it before, usually it's two horses and they are attached somewhere around the girth to each other.
Actually, mine are not attached at all. They have.
Oh, they're not.
Nope. Just for me and safety purposes. If something was to happen and one of the horses was to fall or something like that, they're free to go away from each other. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's even more amazing. And as the Roman rider, you're holding the reins.
Yep.
One rein, one set of reins in each hand. And most of the time we see this with just two horses, but you do it in the show with 4.
Yes, and then we actually later add 2 more, so I finish up with 6.
Okay, I probably was like too blown away to even remember that. I was blown away by 4. So, and then, well, what you do, the horses are at a gallop and there's jumping. I mean, it's just amazing. How did you learn to do this?
I actually worked at a previous horse riding dinner show, and I actually kind of got a late start on it as well because I grew up riding English hunter jumper and then got into Western pleasure. And it wasn't until actually towards the end of high school, my college years, that I realized that trick riding and Roman riding existed. And from that point on, I just instantly fell in love with it. It was in the other show I was in, and I just started learning. And you start by just standing up. There's no easy way to ease into it. So I was pretty athletic, but just getting up there and learning the balance and already knowing horses really helps me. And a lot of falling off and a lot of trial and error, and now here we are.
So you didn't have a vaulting background at all?
Nope, not at all. I had a little bit of dance, and I really just had a lot more sports athletic background, and then I grew up riding. So I think it was the combination of the athleticism as well as the horse knowledge, because I wasn't scared of the horses. I understood what to do, how to steer, things like that. And so I just kind of tied it all together.
So what's it like being the only female Roman rider? Because I believe there's 2 other Roman riders and they're men?
Yes, there's actually 3 other Roman riders and they're all men. And then there's me. It's a lot of fun because it's funny. The audience naturally pulls for the oddball out. And that's me.
Right.
So it's a lot of fun. I'm the only girl out there, so you're instantly drawn to me because I'm the only girl. And, the way the show is set up, and it's funny, I'm kind of the underdog at first. And then once I actually take the team of one of the other guys in the show. So, and then the audience is like, yay, the girl took the boys' team, and now she has 4. And, so it's a lot of fun, and it's just a lot of fun to give the women of the audience, something to, the girl finishes on top kind of power, and it is predominantly a male thing in the world. Some of the really great Roman riders, they're men, and so to be able to have a female kind of show the boys up, and it's fun, and it's all in good times, and it's really all about the horses and reaching people in the audience. So.
Well, it's definitely a huge.
It's a fun time.
It's definitely a huge girl power moment there. So what I'm wondering when I'm watching this, because I didn't realize your horses weren't attached together, because some of them are, isn't it? Right? Some of the ones in the show.
There's only one team. The part where the boy jumps over the bar and lands back onto his horses, they are attached just for his safety.
I see.
But other than that, no teams are attached.
Okay, so it's just incredible to me that the horses stay together. How do you train them to never pull apart past a certain point?
Well, they also don't never pull apart. Sometimes they do, and then it's just, they split your legs and you'll fall down between them. But it's time, and it's picking 2 horses that, enjoy being together, enjoy working side by side. Horses are herd animals, and a lot of times you see out in the pasture 2 horses are going to stand side by side anyway, on their own account. And so it's just kind of finding the right horses, the right size, the right temperament, and just spending a lot of time, and teaching them that, this is their job and this is what we want, and, and then going from there and putting it into a show. So a lot of repetition.
Okay. So for those of us who strive just to stay on our horses while sitting astride,
we were all there once, don't worry.
Yeah. Well, what does it take to stay up there when you're standing?
Well, it takes a lot of balance and a lot of really knowing your horses, and that's what's super important here at Cavalia is just developing that bond with them so there's never, ever any miscommunication. Because miscommunication when you're sitting on a horse is one thing, and you have your legs in your seat and, a lot of room for correction. Miscommunication when you're standing up on two of them, steering 4 more horses in front of you, there's not a lot of room for error. So it's just really, developing that bond and making sure there's as minimal gray area as possible when it comes to what I'm asking of them.
So what kind of horse makes the best horse for Roman riding? Are there certain characteristics you look for?
Not particularly. I mean, the horses need to be similar to each other, and I think that's bigger than, just going out and individually finding a horse. They need to be the same height, somewhat of the same temperament. You can't have a really hot horse and then a really deadhead horse because they're going to be total polar opposites. Horses that need to get along well. And, it's always nice to have a little bit smoother of a horse to be riding on, or at least their gaits are similar enough to each other so you don't have one leg that's bouncing up and all over the place, and then the other horse is really smooth. Right. Quarter horses are typically well known for being, good Roman horses because they're good with the quick burst of speed, things like that. I personally own Soup Paint, which is a Roman team of my own. And the horses I ride in the show, one's a quarter horse and one is actually a Criollo, which is an Argentinian horse, similar to the quarter horse, in size and shape and mannerisms, but it's just actually an Argentinian breed.
Right. So what kind of training goes into teaching a horse to do this?
Well, as I said, it's just steering. They have to be able to be extremely light in the cues, because you don't have your legs because you're standing up on them. So my horse is actually neck reins, and so once I'm standing up on them, if I move my hands over to the right, they go right. If I move my hands over to the left, they go left. And they're really good with voice commands because that's pretty much all you have. You have a little bit of steering up top, but then most of it is voice commands. So just a lot of repetition, a lot of them knowing, what I'm asking of them when I stand up and get into that situation.
How do horses typically react when you first stand up on them as opposed to sitting on them?
I've had different experiences. I've had them be very, they eyeball you, but if you've kind of developed that relationship with them all along, and then you stand up and there's that trust and they understand, because all of a sudden you're going from being about at their level to way up above them. So, I've had horses be totally fine and right away be able to walk side by side and stand together. And then I've had, other horses where you stand up and they, move and freak out and you fall off. And so, it's different. You usually don't just take 2 horses and put them side by side and jump right up. You spend a lot of time sitting on one while steering the other side by side, going around in circles, figure 8 patterns, just so they kind of get the idea to stay together before you ever stand up. Because they need to know we stay together, and so once you stand up, the transition's not really that big a deal, as opposed to just, we're supposed to stay together, now you're standing up. It's too much all at once.
Right. Do you start out having them attached and then wean off of that, or they're never attached when you're in training?
I personally don't. I don't think that, forcing them to be together is really a method of figuring out if they're going to work, because, if you work with horses, they can, any kind of tie that you put in between them, they can break. So instead of having that added stress of pulling and then snapping and something flying and hitting them and all that, I would rather spend the extra time making sure they feel comfortable and they want to be beside each other as opposed to tying them together. So some people prefer that method. I just personally don't.
Okay. As far as the stride, like you're cantering or galloping in the show, the horses need to be in complete stride with each other, or does that matter? No,
because they never are. In an ideal Roman riding world, yes, that would be fantastic. But you just learn to deal with your legs individually. And that's something when you first learn, I remember thinking, oh my goodness, this leg's going this fast and this one's going at this, it was a really awkward feeling, and now I don't even think about it.
Because it looks like you stabilize yourself with your torso, so your legs, it doesn't really matter what your legs are doing.
Yeah, and you have to allow your legs to be relaxed to a point where they work individually with each other.
Right.
Very, very strange feeling.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And even after these years of doing it, it's something I have not forgotten at all when I first started out. Clearly remember that being a very awkward feeling.
Yeah, it looks tough when you're watching it. I mean, it really does.
I guess for people that have never Roman rode, skiing on mogul is probably the closest thing I can think of in comparison.
Okay, well, what we're going to do now is we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to you about the trick riding you do in the show, which is also amazing. Okay. So stay tuned for these messages. We'll be right back.
Why the long face? I reckon Horsing Around will be back in the saddle right after we round up a few words from our sponsors.
It's DesignerPetSweaters.com. Hand-knitted designer sweaters for your precious pup or cool cat. Beautiful couture patterns for your pets, including custom-knitted formal wear, casual wear, yachting, and even sports-themed. Many designer pet sweaters include feathered tammy hats, top hats, and a lot of sparkle. Each sweater includes leg loops, front paw sleeves, and leash opening. Visit DesignerPetSweaters.com to order your four-legged fashions today. Your pets will stay warm for the winter and be runway ready. Large or small, we fit them all. DesignerPetSweaters.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
We know you're chomping at the bit to hear more horsing around. Well, we're back on the trail. So park yourself over yonder and set a spell. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Welcome back to Horsing Around. I'm your host, Audrey Pavia, and today we are talking to Cavalia trick rider Fairland Ferguson. Fairland, tell people what you do in the show as far as the trick riding sequences.
Okay, trick riding is one of the very last acts in the show, and it is where we are going across the front of the stage at extremely fast speeds, up to 20, 30 miles an hour. And it's exactly what it is. We're doing tricks off the side of the horse, on top of the horse, off the back of the horse, flipping off the horse, pretty much anything that you can think of acrobatic-wise on a horse, we're doing just at very fast speeds across the stage.
How did you learn to become a trick rider?
As I said earlier, it's pretty much the same as learning to Roman ride. It was just I found out that trick riding existed, and found some people. You have to have a special saddle to do it, and just started learning basic tricks from there. And I had grown up with horses, and so the horse part, knowing how to ride, was already out of the way. So then it was just learning how to do really high adrenaline things on the horses now.
Right. Now, can you describe what some of the tricks are? I would attempt to do it, but I don't think I'd do as good a job as you would, so
no,
I'm sure there's names for them and stuff.
I'll start off with some of the basic tricks that I do in the show, and then just increase in difficulty level. There's an Apache. It's also known as a parallel, and it's pretty much just swinging it down on the side of the horse while you still hold on to the horn of the saddle, and you just pretty much are riding parallel on the side of the horse. Your foot towards the back of the horse, and your head is towards the horse's head. So it's pretty much rolling out of the saddle, holding onto the saddle horn, go across the stage, and then you get back up. And that's pretty much the first basic trick that everybody learns in trick riding. And then I do a one-leg stand, which is where one foot is on top of the saddle, and the other one is up in the air, like an arabesque and like a ballerina stand.
Right.
And that's just, it's the one-foot stand. It's also the one-leg stand. There's the hippodrome, which is where your both feet are on top of the saddle, and you're just standing up on, balancing on the one horse. And then there's also the suicide, which is where you hook your foot in a strap, and you hang upside down under the horse as he's running. And then there's one of my most recent tricks I've learned, and one of my favorites, is the tail drag. And so it's actually, your butt is about as far back on the horse as right at the dock of his tail, and then your hands are dragging the ground and your head and everything out behind the back of the horse.
Yeah. Yes, it is as scary as it sounds, folks.
I
Watching
think
you
it was
guys,
at first.
watching you guys as you go tearing by at unbelievable speeds in these positions is just amazing. It's just mind-blowing to watch this. And the opening night at Burbank, one of the other women trick riders had a bit of a fall off of one of the horses toward the end, and the audience gasped, and she jumped up and said, "I'm fine,"
Yeah.
But it just like reinforced how potentially dangerous it is.
Yeah, I think when something goes wrong in the show, it does really show people that, it looks easy. A lot of people are, "Oh, it looks so easy, it looks so easy."
Oh, that doesn't look easy to me.
That's the purpose and the goal. But, when something does go wrong, it's kind of a reminder, say, hey, wow, this is hard. And but she actually was fine. The horse was fine. It's just one of those instances where he didn't run an exact straight line. He zigzagged a little bit, and it's really hard to keep your balance running across the stage on one horse standing up, and so she just fell to the side. But horse and rider were fine, and sometimes those things happen, and that's part of the deal, and working with live animals. And
well, and that's what makes the show exciting, because you're watching it live, and there's these amazing, stunts are being performed, and anything can happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I don't know who tells you it looks easy. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because having fallen off my own horse and horses over the years, I know just when you feel, yourself coming off the saddle, you're just scrambling to hang on just so you don't hit the dirt.
Yeah.
And then watching you guys do this at 30 miles an hour, hanging off the side of the saddle and to be completely secure, it's just amazing to me.
I actually get told that probably every day.
Really, that it looks easy?
Like, oh, you look like you're having so much fun. It looks so easy when you're doing it. You make it look so easy, and which is really funny to me, because it's not at all.
Yeah, I don't know. People say that they must not ride, because anybody who's fallen off a horse and tried desperately to stay on knows that it's not easy to cling onto the side of a saddle at a full gallop.
No.
So the trick horses, what's involved with their training?
Well, here we actually do it in a straight line. A lot of times in outside of Cavalia, you can see it in like a rodeo setting, and it's the U shape. It's like a horseshoe shape. I've actually done both, and the training is very similar in both situations. It's just training the horse first off for the pattern, so they know, because you're not in control, you're not holding the reins, you're not steering. So they need to know that from point A to point B, that's their job. That's where they run to and where they go, and they need to do it very consistently. So once again, paint, quarter horses, the horses that are big enough and strong enough and broad enough to be able to hold that kind of weight, shifting around on them while they're running is important. So typically, again, quarter horses are ideal because they're good for those short, fast bursts of energy and speed and things like that. So most of the horses that we trick ride on here in the show are quarter horses, and then as well as paint, which is just, a quarter horse with color, pretty much.
Right,
so,
right.
That's predominantly the ones we use here at this show. And it's just desensitizing them to, your rider, in a sense, to them falling off and then getting back on. And they just need to know to maintain that speed and the consistent, the line, with while we're doing all of this weight shifting and moving and jumping around.
Do they have to have a certain kind of temperament?
Not really. They need to be fast, because a horse that is lazy and slow tends to, it's just as long as they're consistent. So, and a lot of times, we have trick horses here that are extremely hot, and then we also have some that are very calm, but they both run the same on stage, and that's what's important. So it's really just a matter of consistency.
So the way you guys do the trick riding, you come out from this stage left or stage right, I guess, or is it stage left?
It's actually both. We go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
That's right. Yeah, I think we probably start from the left, but you come galloping through, and then you disappear, and then the next rider comes out. What's going on back there after you get past the curtain?
I think that's everybody's question. We're pretty much running into a room. It's very organized, and we go at certain spots. We have monitors back there so we can see the other stage, like we can see on the stage, as well as we have people that are calling the different cues. Because we are running extremely fast, and you cannot have errors in that act. When it comes to timing, if one horse goes, everybody has to know that horse is going. Everybody waits, and the next one goes. So we do know the order that we're going in, and it's a tight squeeze in the room, but very prepared. A lot of rehearsing, and we know the act, and we know who goes when, and you don't mess that up.
Right. So you gallop into this room, and then you come to a stop, and then you go around the back, and then come around the other side?
No, it's designed so that once we go into the room, you stop, the next horse goes, and then you get out of the way, and then you wait for your next turn.
Okay, and then you go back the other direction.
Yep, you just go back across the stage. There are a few passes behind stage, so that if a certain horse needs to do another pass, but needs to be the same direction it just went, we can pass backstage. But for the most part, it's set up that we can just go back and forth and back and forth.
Okay. So what's it like being part of Cavalia?
I love it. There's just so many different aspects to being a part of this show. I thrive off performing. I'm very blessed to be able to do what I love with the animals I love. I remember when I saw the show, how inspired I was, and now to be that inspiration for other people is just, that's my favorite part of the job, day in and day out. Just to be able to demonstrate and give people what I felt when I first saw the show is truly a blessing. The traveling is great. I didn't get to travel a lot growing up, so being able to completely change cities every 2-3 months is really exciting for me, and being able to meet the people here, because it's a big melting pot, not only just horseback riders, but as I said, the dancers, the acrobats, the musicians, the singers, everybody's from all over the world. We have people from Morocco, from Canada, from France, just from Russia, everywhere, and it's really great to be able to come, and we all share the same passion and this love for performing, and just, to be able to have this experience, but then share it with 2,000 people every night is really, really just amazingly blessed to have this job.
Yeah. Well, it's an incredible show. Where are you guys going after you're done here in California?
After we're finished here in Burbank, we are actually going to Vancouver.
Oh, okay. So are you on, are you going to be touring for a while, for a period of time?
Yeah, Cavalia has been a continuous show since 2003. And so we travel continuously. We try, and the tour is just ongoing. So there's not a stop date yet, and I hope there's not. And they're actually working on a Cavalia 2, which will kick off in Quebec, I believe, in July or August of 2011. So that's really exciting. So we'll actually have 2 troops traveling at the same time. It'll be Cavalia and then Cavalia 2.
Oh, interesting. Will it be the same show?
Nope, it'll be totally different, all different acts, aspects, horses, just an entire different show altogether. So if you have seen Cavalia 1, Cavalia 2 will be a totally different experience.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, it really is exciting for us.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I really enjoyed talking to you. This is really very much of a treat for me, having just seen the show.
Thank you, as well. I'm really glad you got to come see the show, too.
Yeah, thank you. I hope everybody takes a look at the episode notes page on Horsing Around, on the Horsing Around website. There'll be some more information on Fairland and Cavalia, and I'm going to try to put a link up there that has upcoming dates so you can see when Cavalia is going to be in your town. Thanks, Fairland, for being with me tonight. And
thank y'all.
You're welcome. And if you have any questions or comments about Horsing Around, please email me at audrey@petliferadio.com. Until next time, happy trails.
Stop what you're doing and start horsing around every week on Pet Life Radio. Horse expert and award-winning rider Audrey Pavia will be trotting out great tips on feeding, breeding, and more on everything equestrian. So set a spell and say hey to Audrey and get ready for a darn tootin' galloping good time every week on Horsing Around, on demand only on PetLifeRadio.com.